Hey guys, you're probably wondering why you're looking at something live and just hearing some noises in the background. Well, one, right now it is about 8:30, I believe. Yes, it's about 8:31 actually. I've got about 2 hours and 24 minutes before I leave for work. I don't have to be at work till 11:45 today. And I've had plenty of time this morning to get up and do this, but I just want to relax a little bit, get myself settled in. Well, not settled in, but kind of wake myself up a little bit and just enjoy the time I have to myself because basically from 5:30 till now or until I leave, I have the house to myself for about 5 hours and you know 25 minutes. So, I have the place pretty much all to myself. So, I decided just to relax a little bit, have some fun. Well, not have some fun, but basically, just sit back, relax, do my own thing, kind of deal. As you can probably hear in the background, I'm doing my laundry. So, anyway, I wanted to come on here, and you see the title of this live feed as I'm trying to link this up to Twitter and all that right now. Hold on for a sec. Okay. But yeah, I wanted to come on here and basically, you know, kind of try to answer the question here, and that is, why do animated shows put a romantic tease or a romance tease in? Why do they do that? Why do they, why do animated shows, feel the need to add a little bit of a shipping tease or a romance tease? Now, I know I've probably talked about this before, but it's to me it's worth talking about again. It's kind of like worth looking back on it again because obviously the biggest example I should say recently, I think, for any animated fan out there is of course My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. It's probably the biggest example out there. And the reason I say that basically is because of the fact that it's the truth. And one of the biggest examples out of that, folks, one of the biggest examples out of there, and I'm just looking at something. Okay. But like I said, one of the biggest examples out of My Little Pony, as mentioned by myself and a lot of people, is what is considered the top tier romance, in the show, period. And that is, well, not romance, but ship in the show, period. And that is a Spike, and that is a Spike in Rarity. Because here's the thing, they don't need, well, I wouldn't say don't need, but they didn't have to put, as I've said before, and everybody else has pointed out, they didn't have to put the show. They didn't have to put, Spike and Rarity. They didn't have to basically start the shipping between Spike and Rarity like they did. Lauren Faust didn't have to decide, oh, I'm going to, make Spike be the point of view of the audience of how beautiful Rarity is. They didn't have to do that, but they went with it. And as I've mentioned before, and everybody else has mentioned before, I don't think Lauren Faust had any idea how much it was going to explode. I don't think she did. I went on Twitter, recently, not just now, but recently, and somebody said, when you look up hashtag Sparity or hashtag Rarity and Spike, that Sparity slash Rarity and Spike is, when it comes to the MLP ships, is the top tier ship. It's the top tier ship supported by fans. Now I don't know if that's fact or that's just by some voting or whatever, you know. But apparently somebody looked at it and basically came out and said that from what they saw, from I guess some kind of poll or voting or whatever, some kind of poll that was used or something, that Sparity is a top tier ship in the show. It's a top tier ship above Shining Armor and Cadence. It's a top tier ship above Twilight Sparkle and Flash Century, or Twilight and Sunset if you're into that, or Twilight and Starlight if you're into that. It's a top tier ship above Rarity if you're into that, which is Rarity Applejack, or Apple Dash, which is Applejack and Rainbow Dash, or Pinky and Cheese Sandwich, or Rainbow Dash and Soren. You get the idea. It's basically a top tier ship in the eyes of a lot of folks. So, or a lot of fans, I should say. So, for a majority of the fans to come out and say that that's a top tier, ship in their eyes, that's saying something. That really is saying something. In my opinion, it really does say something, honestly. Now, here's the thing. As I've mentioned before, and others have mentioned before, not a lot of people are, I wouldn't say a lot, but a good majority of fans, a decent amount, I'll put it that way, with all due respect, are not particularly fond of, of Spike and Rarity in the ship there. Heck, I even asked AC Race Best and his colleagues yesterday during the live stream with the super chat what the first reactions were, and they were kind of reluctant to answer. I think it was Toodles, maybe. I'm not really sure. That basically said that she believed that they had moved on as a fan base, that we and the creative staff had moved on from this. Like, okay, we know it was there, it was a thing, and now we can move on. But then she, because one of the things I asked them, how did they feel about it being set up the way it was in Best Gift Ever? And again, like I said, I don't know if it was Toodles or who it was, but basically this lady basically said that, again, like I mentioned, she believed that they had moved on, but apparently it seems that nope, we're going to decide to come back to that for some reason. And like I said before, everybody has a right to their opinions. Everybody has a right to their opinions. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm not saying that they don't. Everybody has a right to their opinions. If they don't like something, they don't have to like it. They don't have to support it. But, as I've said before, and I'll say again, if you were to look up, or you were to research and look and compare those that don't support Sparity compared to those that do support Sparity, then you would see a large, significant difference in margin. That those that support Spike and Rarity, Sparity, outnumber those that don't. And again, I understand, people may not like that. So, anyway. Anyway, here, just checking something out. But yeah, not a lot of people may like that, and or support it. And again, everybody has an opinion. But you see, My Little Pony isn't My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is not the only show in recent memory that has done this. You know, there's a show that's on Disney Plus right now that, thanks to Frank Hill, it's Frank, I got a Blu-ray complete series set of, and that's Gravity Falls. And people may have not liked the idea that, you know, may have not liked the idea that Gravity Falls would tease something between, I think, what's his name again? I'm sorry, I apologize for that. But what's his name again? Let's see, hold on, I'm gonna look it up. I know it's something. Hold on, guys, I apologize. Okay. Here we go. Dipper. That's what it is, Dipper. You know, here's the thing about that, and I'm going to mention this right here. I know a lot of people weren't too fond of, you know, Gravity Falls teasing the Dipper Wendy thing, and even though they had established that Wendy probably had somebody or has somebody, they still continued to tease it even to the end. And here's the thing, just like with Spike and Rarity, people supported it. They supported it and said, what's the big deal? So he's only a few years younger. Or maybe a year younger. He's just small in stature. You know, people would point that out. And in their own interpretation, which even Jim Miller, the supervising director of Friendship is Magic, has told us, in their own interpretation, would actually, even after and even during the show, would ship in their own stories or whatever, Dipper and Wendy. They would do that. You know, they would actually do that. So, you know, even though pretty much the show tried to establish that she might have somebody officially that would kind of dispel the crush, the ship, or whatever, and try to make them into good friends, fans still, even after the show ended, in their own continuity, their own mind, their own interpretation, say, you know what? Screw what, you know, the show's done. We're going to do it our way. So, yeah, it's like, oh, so yeah, it's basically like that in a sense. That, you know, some people would look at that in that perspective. And it's the truth. If you're a fan of Gravity Falls, and I hear it's a good show, and I am going to check it out as best I can, it's just, there are times that I'm tired, and I know that sounds like an excuse and all that, but I go by word of mouth, and a lot of people have said Gravity Falls is good. And one of the things that I think gets people behind Gravity Falls, or got them behind it, was, I believe, the ship, or the tease, if you will, that they had between Wendy and Dipper. I think that's what did it. Now, here's the thing. Did they have to tease a Wendy Dipper ship? Or romance? Did they have to do that? No, they did not have to do that. What they could have done, and this is the honest truth, they could have easily just said, you know what? We're either going to suggest there might be something between the two, and then maybe at the end make it more officialized to where perhaps there's a bittersweet ending to where they have to part, but they'll always remember each other. And they kind of did that with the envelope that Wendy gave him. But point is, you get what I'm saying. If they wanted to really go that route and make the ending a little bit more bittersweet, they could have done that. They could have even saved what would have been maybe the only on-screen kiss between the two to the end. They could have done that. But they didn't. And instead, the show ended somewhat with a conclusion, but still somewhat with some answers, with some questions still unanswered, but also left up to interpretation of the fans of how they feel the next step should be in the direction of Gravity Falls. Again, goes back to My Little Pony Friendship is Magic and what Jim Miller said. Yeah, I understand that, I should. But like I said, it's what Jim Miller said. Everybody looks at Rarity and they say that, and he has basically said that you can interpret it any way you want. When Dragon dropped, and I mean that with no punning, if you know what I mean. But when that episode aired, even early in China and other places before here in the U.S., everybody said that it was a Rarity episode. And that basically the ending left the door open for interpretation. Some say that the ending pretty much confirms Rarity as an item because, out of all the times we've seen Spike do something for Rarity, want to be with Rarity and all that, the roles were reversed, and some would interpret that this was Rarity opening her eyes and realizing that the one true love she's always wanted, that Prince Charming, that knight in shining armor, has been in front of her the whole time. The one individual that's willing to do things to be with her, to help her, to make her happy, and show the love for her, has been right in front of her the whole time. Some say that that's basically what Dragon Drop was. Thespio even said when he did his review at Voice of Reason, he even said that it's the equivalent, in a sense, of a lover's triangle. That basically Rarity felt like she was being cheated on by Spike, that Spike was cheating on her with Gabby, and that was further from the case. But the point is, despite it being a rehash of a similar story before and with other characters, as some people would point out, it was done in a way to where throughout and even at the end, fans would say that it either strengthened Rarity. Some would say it not only strengthened it, but basically made it official because he came back to her. And then you have Pinky's line at the end, which kind of like you can interpret anyway. As well as some might say that it didn't really say yay or nay, but it left it open to interpretation, just like Jim Miller pointed out. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Okay? My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And Gravity Falls are not the only ones to do this. Where they can leave it open to interpretation if they want. Heck, there are some people on some of the Facebook pages, like the Facebook page called People Who Love Rarity. That's one of them. That's actually a Facebook group page, People Who Love Rarity. They will there's somebody that took a picture of Spike in the future. Put it on top. He's standing like this, like the one we see a lot. And below it is a picture of Rarity with kind of a flirtatious look on her, like a pleasing, flirtatious look. Like, yeah, now this might be the moment. Like now, in some people's eyes, that may have not been too sure about it at first, they're like, yeah, now would be the best time for her to be with him. Now she can go with him. Or whatever. And here's the thing, like I said, My Little Pony, and here's the thing, that's exactly what I'm trying to say first of all, that's basically what Jim Miller says. You can open it to interpretation. When you look at Best Gift Ever, people would say that now you could place that at any time. You could place that at any time in the series continuity. You don't just have to place it, between seasons 8 and 9. You could actually place it afterwards. And some might say, well, doesn't that contradict Twilight becoming the head mayor and all that. Well, not the head mayor, but the new ruler and all that, and Starlight being head mayor. Here's the thing: we see at the beginning that Starlight and Trixie are going camping for the holiday, right? So what if Twilight takes over? Resumes her role as head mayor while Canterlot Castle's still being fixed, and they're getting ready to get preparations behind the scenes for the coronation. Who's to say she doesn't take over while Starlight's on vacation as head mayor? Kind of, you know, retake her position and decide to basically grade, and during this time, during the break, grade a lot of the midterms like she mentions in the special. So who's to say she doesn't, because like I said, we see at the beginning Starlight and Trixie go on a vacation. Who's to say that Twilight doesn't decide, that since Starlight's going on vacation for the holiday with Trixie, camping if you will, who's to say she doesn't take over as the head mayor and take back the responsibilities of grading, the school, the midterms and all that, during that time. That's what interpretation is called. Well, that's what people mean by interpretation. Because if you can interpretate it that way, it makes sense. And I know it sounds a lot more complexing, but you get the idea. That's why when you look at Spike's moment with Rarity and all that, and the subplot and everything in that special, you could probably say this takes place between after the ending of the end and Twilight's coronation. It makes sense because in between you could have a hearts warming, you could have Starlight and Trixie go on vacation, you could have Twilight resume her role as head mayor while Starlight and Trixie are gone. You can have her take on that responsibility of grading the midterms and all that because, she's not technically the ruler yet, if you catch my drift. So there, again, there you go. It makes, I know it sounds convoluted and I know it sounds like I'm not too sure about what I'm saying there, but there you go. Let me simplify it. Basically, if you want to look at Best Gift Ever as taking place between after the ending of the end and between that and the coronation, you can look at it as Twilight resuming her role as head mayor while Starlight and Trixie go on vacation for the holiday, and by resuming that role, she takes back on the responsibility of grading the midterms for the students. Hold on for a second. That's nothing. Just a wrong call. Sorry for the interference there, guys. Sorry for the interference. Let me try to readjust that a little bit. Okay. It's good? Okay. Okay, let me readjust that a little bit. Sorry about that. Client services. I know who they are, believe me. Like I said, I know who they are, so I do apologize for that. If there was any kind of interruption or something like that doing it. I know who they are, so I do apologize for that. So, anyway, like I said, basically, yeah. Anyway, though, as I was saying, you could look at it from that perspective if you want to. The same could be said for Rainbow Road Trip. Now, like I said, Gravity Falls and My Little Pony are not the only ones to do this. One of the shows I grew up on back in the late 80s and early 90s was Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. Now, you can watch all of Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers uncut and everything on Disney Plus right now. You could do that. But one of the things that made Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers so popular was not just the characters in the stories. No. One of the subplots throughout the series when it was called for, and there were many times it was called for, was who would Gadget Hack Wrench end up with? Because throughout the series, even from the pilot, and even during the earlier episodes that got aired on Disney Channel in spring of 1989, basically, one of the subplots that they would, like I said, utilize when it was called upon, and it was called upon a lot, would be who would Gadget end up with? And I know I just said that, so I do apologize. I was just thinking about something, just looking at something right there too. But who would she end up with? Because basically, like I said, of course this was established, as I was trying to say, this was of course established in the pilot To the Rescue, or Rescue Rangers to the Rescue, which is a five-part pilot. But it was also established in the earlier episodes as well, the ones that got aired on Disney Channel in spring of 1989. And basically, from that time frame and the five-part pilot and in between and afterwards, it was always teased of who would Gadget end up with. Would it be Chip? Would it be Dale? Who would it be? And a lot of people would show sides of who they wanted Gadget to be with. Some wanted Gadget to be with someone outside the group, like Sparky the Lab Rat. Or Sparky the Lab Rat, I should say. So, some would want Gadget to be with Chip. Some would want Gadget to be with Dale. And some would decide Gadget just needs to be on her own, not be tied down or not have a love interest at all, because she's that kind of a character. Me, I'll be totally honest, from that time when I was growing up till now, I'm kind of in the camp of Dale and Gadget. I mean, there are episodes throughout the series that show that there's chemistry between the two that could really be touched upon if given the chance. I mean, the fact that Gadget is supportive, or Dale is supportive of Gadget in RoboCat, about giving this mechanical cat another chance, a second chance, by using his video game that he has. You know, and the fact that he's willing to go with her to try to restore, what, as they call him, Tom, the RoboCat, back to normal. You know, there's just too much, there was just, to me, too much evidence throughout. I mean, the fact that, let's put it this way, the fact that Gadget, probably the best example in my opinion, Gadget went all out to make Dale feel better. Because when Dale snuck into her workshop in one of my favorite episodes, if not the favorite episode of mine, Double O Chipmunk, to create and invent his own super spy suit, take one of his own tuxedos and turn it into a spy suit, a super spy suit, who was one of the first characters impressed? Gadget. I mean, the moment he hits his belt and the friggin' helicopter propeller pops out and boom, right into the ceiling. And you see the characters. The one with the biggest, impressed look on their face is Gadget. And so who's the one that helps him out in the end to make him live his dream, even though that dream, which was supposed to be just a game, turns into reality? Who's the one that helps him out? Gadget. Gadget helps him out. So to me, there was just too much evidence, honestly. There's a lot of moments in the series that just show that these two will probably, that I believe honestly, Disney was probably going to put these two together down the line. You see, what some people may not know is when DuckTales the movie in 1990, which was DuckTales the movie Treasure of the Lost Lamp, which you could also see on Disney Plus, when it came out, that was supposed to be the first of a series of Disney afternoon shows given the theatrical movie treatment. And Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers was on the planning block to get that treatment. Unfortunately, because DuckTales the movie bombed, the Rescue Ranger movie was scrapped. My opinion, and I did a video on this, is exactly what would have happened if that movie went through. And I think, honestly, and I believe I said this in that video, I believe that they probably would have, one of the things they probably would have came up with and done is have Gadget end up with Dale. That's just my opinion. And hold on for a sec. I'll be right back. I'm currently recording the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which I DVR'd a week ago, but never got a chance to record or have a chance to look at. I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I got about 4 minutes, so I'm gonna go back and forth here. I will be going back and forth here, so I do apologize. But like I said, there's just so many moments in Rescue Rangers that I think, honestly, in my opinion, that had a movie been done, they would have probably done Gadget and Dale as a couple. They probably would have put them together. I mean, again, Double the Chipmunk's a good example. I mean, the fact that Gadget hugs Dale at the end of Song of the Nightingale, which preceded Double O Chipmunk, when she tells Dale that they were the ones, because basically everybody's apologizing to Dale, thinking he was crazy, making up stuff. And Gadget says, no, we're the ones that were crazy about you. And she hugs him real tightly, and he's sitting right next to her. Oh, and by the way, that was one of the things about it. He was getting allowed a chance to fly the Ranger plane, the new Ranger jet plane, whatever. And basically, he was, I guess, the first name on the list to be like, okay, you're going to be first to learn this thing. So, anyway, though, there's moments like that. There's even little Easter eggs. Like in Wolf in Sheep's Clothing, that's another episode. In Wolf in Sheep's Clothing, when Gadget's trying to rewire this metamorphosizer device of Nimnol's to try to fix the wolf friend, back to normal, after she kind of rewires it and everything, it shoots off a few electric sparks, and she jumps, and whose arms does she jump into? Dale's. Who's the one that she gets stuck with in Carpet Snaggers, and then gets caught by Dale when she falls, and thanks him in a very, sweet, flirtatious way? Dale. The thing is, to me, Disney, even though they would tease moments between Gadget and Chip, they did, and even use this Povoli Ring a Bell, that's the episode's name, to probably tease Gadget romance outside of the group with Sparky the Lab Rat, and they would do the same. Sorry about the stuttering there, but they would do the same in the earlier episodes, like Adventures in Squirrel City with Chip and Tammy the Squirrel, and in later episodes towards the end, in Good Times, Bad Times with Dale and Foxglove, even though they would tease romances with those characters, and even Zippa with the Queenie Bee character, there was nothing really established. But the one thing that they would always tease and try to make you interpretative and wonder what direction they would go in was the thing with Dale and Gadget or Chip and Gadget, but most times it was Dale and Gadget. And that was a fact. That was a true, honest-to-God fact. And I know people don't want to hear that were fans of the show growing up like I was, but it's a fact. I mean, you look at all the episodes that had those moments, it was a fact. I mean, heck, what was it? Fly in the Ointment? I think that's the episode where they kind of they had that temporary switch bodies, mutations, different heads on bodies kind of deal. Who did the creative staff whose body did Dale's head end up on in that episode? Whose body? Gadget. Where's Gadget's head? Whose body did Gadget's head end up on in that episode? Dale's. Even with subtle hints, little moments right there, Easter eggs, if you will, it kind of tells you that they were teasing something. They were setting up for something. We just never got a true resolution, which is why nowadays you look at fan fiction, and true, a lot of fan fiction stories would go with the Chip and Gadget deal and Dale and Foxglove deal, but there are some out there, and I believe probably more so than we are letting on, that focus on Dale and Gadget. Heck, there are some fan vids that focus on Dale and Gadget. AMVs, if you will. So when you look at it from that perspective, Rescue Rangers did shipping teases, they did romantic teases, but they did it in a way that made you think, okay, why are you teasing this? Where's the resolution? And when you wouldn't get it, basically in the end, it left it open for interpretation by the fans. I mean, heck, Ian Brill, I think that's his name, Ian Brill, that did the Boom Studios Rescue Rangers revival comic several years ago, basically teased, or basically kind of continued the Foxglove Dale thing from Good Times, Bad Times. Just like the fans would in fan fiction and web comics, he continued it in an official Disney comic by Boom Studios. And he didn't have to. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? The fact is, if a fan of a property like Rescue Rangers was to get the a chance to do an official continuation like they did with Boom Studios, and they decided, you know what? I've always felt that they were going to do something with Dale and Gadget. They were going to put them together, and I have no problem with that. You can't tell me that fan that would think that would go like, so would think, you know what? Since they were going to tease, they were teasing something, but they never went through with it. I'm going to go through with it, and they probably would. Hold on for a sec. It's about 44 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. You know when that client thing came on, I was like, oh, sorry. Sorry, guys. Just thinking about something there. I get so used to, just doing something and come back and do my own thing. So I do apologize for that. What I did is I finished recording the Thanksgiving Day Parade, the Macy's one, and then decided, you know what? I got time before I get ready. I have to get ready in just a bit, or just a little while, about 9:15. So I got about 45 minutes or so to get ready, maybe an hour. But the thing is, basically, what I did is I'm now recording Best Gift Ever, courtesy of Netflix. So there you go. Anyway, though, because it's going to be the first of maybe, hopefully, a few of my traditional yearly holiday/movie special DVDs. We shall see. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, they teased. They would tease so much, and I'm just checking something there, guys. But here's the thing: it seemed to me that they were teasing Gadget and Dale so much throughout the series. Like, you know, as I was saying, somebody just like this Ian Brill did with the Boom Studios revival could be like, you know what? You know what? We need We need Rescue Rangers, right? Or something like that. They could be like, you know what? You know what? Let's try another revival of Rescue Rangers. But, as I was trying to say, they could point out, you know, okay, what I'm trying to say, because I'm trying to get my mind refocused on what I was talking about here. But basically, okay, I got it now. Got it. I do apologize. So this is what happens when you do things live and everything. You gotta expect little quirkiness here and there. But anyway, uh, like I said, somebody could be like, they could look at the fact that it seemed Dale and Gadget, the shipping tease of those two characters, the shipping of those two characters was always teased throughout the show, and they could be like, you know what, let's revive Rescue Rangers, but you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do what they didn't do. We're going to reveal the truth. We're going to put Dale and Gadget together because obviously that's what the original content creators, well, not content creators, but the original creative staff behind the series, Tad Stones and all of them, were planning to do. They were planning to put Dale and Gadget together with all this teasing and everything. So you know what? Since we're going to revive the Rescue Rangers for a new generation, kind of make it a continuation, maybe reboot it a little bit as well, we're going to go in that direction. We're going to, instead of just ship it or do a ship tease between the characters, we're going to do a story arc where those two eventually get together. Or maybe, like I said, they do a continuation and they end up together. Who knows? I mean, the fact that we have the Rescue Rangers coming back in season 3 of DuckTales, the new DuckTales series, who's to say there won't be any evidence there that maybe something happened? That maybe Dale and Gadget got together. Who knows? You see, that's the one thing people, will say about the new DuckTales series and, the revival, the continuation, the introduction or reintroduction of classic Disney afternoon characters, associated with DuckTales and other shows. The fact that they're being brought in ways you wouldn't expect, but it's interesting and intriguing. So who's to say that when the Rescue Rangers come in, that maybe we don't get a moment between a DuckTales character and a Rescue Ranger character, and we find out that Dale and Gadget are together. Like maybe there's a scene where Gadget's attending to Dale, maybe she kisses him on the cheek or something like that, and kind of snuggles him, kind of does a head-to-head, kind of snuggles heads together briefly. And let's say somebody like, I don't know, Dewey or Hugh, somebody like maybe Fenton or Dewey or Huey or whoever, or maybe even Launchpad, talks to maybe Chip, and you kind of have Chip's moment be like, he's kind of like, he's happy for them, but he's kind of sorrow, and maybe, like I said, someone like Launchpad, maybe Scrooge or somebody notices that, and they could say, well, maybe they have a talk about it. Maybe we get an answer as to how it happened. Not saying that that's going to happen, but again, that's just an idea of what we could get. Because, again, who knows? Maybe the creative staff behind DuckTales notices what I mentioned too. But you see, it's not just something like Rescue Rangers. See, Disney has done this with a lot of the series. One of the prominent series that I grew up with in the 90s was TaleSpin. And everybody says and points out, and even the creative staff behind TaleSpin points out, that Baloo and Rebecca's relationship was based or inspired by the relationship of Sam and Rebecca from Cheers. And we all know that for a brief time in that series, Sam and Rebecca got together. We know that. We know that for a fact. So, in TaleSpin, there were many times in episodes like A Star is Torn and several others, too many to name, that they would tease. My Fair Baloo is another one. But they would tease something between Baloo and Rebecca. There was even an episode where Baloo went to what he thought was a weight loss camp or weight loss clinic to try to lose weight in time for a ball to take Rebecca on. And it's like, yeah, it's a pilot's ball and she's got to go with a pilot, but honestly, she could have gone with any pilot. They could have said, we don't have to do this episode, we can have her go with somebody else. No. They had her go with Baloo. You see, there's so many moments, even when she would play along sometimes with one of Baloo's schemes, they didn't have to have her do some of the things she did. And to me, just like with Rescue Rangers, they had too many moments, they had episodes dedicated to it, stuff like that, to where, why didn't you just make these two official? Now, we know that Kit and Molly are coming back as adults in the new DuckTales series, so maybe we'll find out whether or not Rebecca and Baloo got together. But the point is, there was just so much obvious shipping tease between Baloo and Rebecca in TaleSpin. It's like it was just too obvious that if they had gone for any more seasons than what they had, or even in the movie direction of the Disney afternoon that was planned with the first DuckTales movie, you can't say that part of those future plans would involve Baloo and Rebecca getting together. Because it would have. It most definitely would have. But, that's just the thing. And, that's just the thing about Disney. They would do a lot of this with a lot of the shows. Believe it or not, as crazy as this sounds, they did it with Goof Troop, even though Peg, if you will, was married to Pete. Freaking Goof Troop would tease something between Baloo and Peg. Or not Baloo and Peg, but Goofy and Peg. they would tease something between Goofy and Peg. Even though they would try to set Goofy up with some other love interest, they would tease constantly something between the two. Heck, what was it? And what was the episode? Um, Goofing up the social ladder. I think that was. I think that's what the name was. Goofing up the social ladder. I think that was the name. Peg's trying to get in with these socialites in this higher class of people. And Goofy unexpectedly gives her so many ideas. He gives her idea about, one thing, and she kisses him on the forehead about it, for it. And then one of the biggest moments, and people point this out like, excuse me, Peg, you're married to Pete, who can literally kill or destroy Baloo. Not Baloo, but Goofy. You're married to a guy that can literally pummel and hurt Goofy. So, what are you doing kissing Goofy on the lips in a very, as he even Goofy puts it, very passionate way? But it's not just that either. Because what? He unexpectedly gives you an idea. But it's not just that either. You get a lot of these flashbacks, right? They would do episodes where Goofy would tell the story to Max to teach him a lesson or the value or something. And there's one that they talk about with the Drip Along Goofy character from the Western days, like what we saw in the Western cartoon one time. So they continue that, and what do they have Peg become potentially to him at the end? A love interest. Even in Goof Troop, they teased it, and it's like if you're gonna have moments between these two characters, why didn't you just have her be a single mother? And maybe she ends up with Goofy. It's like they tease these moments, and it's like, really? You're putting that in a show like this? It's like, so you're saying that you support Goofy and Peg as an item over Pete and Peg. So anyway, there are moments like that. What else? Bonkers. I love Bonkers. I know some people look at that show and they're like, I don't know. It's very underrated. You need to watch it. And I think one of the reasons people kind of go about Bonkers is because they obviously have heard about the history of it. And it doesn't, behind the scenes, and it doesn't show it any favoritism, I will admit it. But still, there were moments in Bonkers that basically pretty much indicated that he and basically his female love interest on screen when he was an actor and off screen in Fondier, it pretty much indicated that these two were together. There's no doubt about it. These two were an item, or at least on the verge of it. And here's the thing. Even though it was pretty much evident that these two were an item, and Castle Bonkers, the end of it, pretty much kind of, I think, sealed the deal. It's like, and of course you had those animated shorts that they did. It's kind of like, it's one thing to do the animated shorts and have your moments there. It's one thing to have the ending in Castle Bonkers. But where's the official indication? You know what? Again, you know what it takes? It takes fan interpretation to do this, to make the ship a reality. It takes fan interpretation to make the ship a reality. It does. It takes fan interpretation. And here's the thing. Fondier wasn't the only character, obviously, in the eyes of a lot of fans, that Disney teased Bonkers with being with. No. No. You see, there was another character. And someone by the name of Peach Blossom, I think, Peach Blossom 92 or 62, one of them, I gotta look up the name on DeviantArt. And I even did a video on this myself. I talked about it. But in the eyes of this fan, and probably others, Disney kind of teased, in their eyes, a ship, a romantic ship, between Bonkers and his female partner, Miranda Wright. I am not joking. I'm not joking about that. And it's like, why would you tease this? Why would you go with this? And it goes by the same kind of formula that some people look at Nickelodeon's Tough Puppy going with. It's a formula that got established in the classic Get Smart series. So some people are looking at the fact that when you look at Bonkers and him teamed up with Miranda, it's like to some fans, it's obvious that maybe there's going to be something there between the two characters. But why would you tease something like this between two characters if you know that your main character already has eyes for someone else? See what I'm saying? And even though, like I said, they didn't truly officially indicate that Bonkers and Fawn were together. I mean, fans pretty much already see that already. So a lot of official sites that would promote the show or talk about the show would go with, go with that indication that, oh, Bonkers' girlfriend is named Fondier. Although, even though, with the exception of the shorts and everything, it was never really indicated that they were official, as much as I hate to say that. It left the door open for interpretation. And the interpretation was, you could put Bonkers with Fawn, it's the most obvious direction to go with, but then you have Miranda. And I think that's why, and I think you go back to the Get Smart theory, and that's why someone like Peach Blossom would go with it. But here's what's funny though. Bonkers wasn't the only one. Mighty Ducks, believe it or not, did some shipping there. Or did some teasing, brief shipping tease, Mighty Ducks the Animated Series, with Wild Wing and Tanya's concerned about Wild Wing being dead or not, I think in the episode Duck Hard. Yeah, that was the episode. Oh, Puck Hard, I should say. Duck Hard, Puck Hard, whatever it's called. So, there was that. And then you had a bit of a shipping tease with Mallory, Duke, and Nosedive, but more specifically, believe it or not, Nosedive and Mallory, which some fans capitalized on, probably more than we think. But then you have shows that actually did go through with the teasing, with the hinting, and actually make it official despite some people's protests. Gargoyles, as mentioned in my description here, is one of those series. They went through with the whole Eliza Maza and Goliath romance. They went through with it from the beginning, where they hinted at it, from the early portions of the series, all the way to the end of season 2 and into the season 3 spinoff, the Goliath Chronicles. They went through it. They made it official. They started hinting at it. They went through with it. And it's not and here's the thing. Shows will do that. They will tease at something and they'll go through with it. Darkwing Duck's a good example of that with Morgana and Darkwing. See what I'm saying? Kim Possible. Good show. Definitely good show. Everybody knew from the beginning Ron and Kim should be an item. What did they do? They would tease it. They would tease it. They would hint at it. They would hint at it. Finally, you get to sow the drama. What happens? Bada bing, bada boom. The two are an item. And pretty much the biggest hint, in my opinion, was the 3-part miniseries that got turned into, that was also a movie, A Stitch in Time. That, to me, was probably one of the biggest hints right there. So to haven't made official, and even followed through on in the final season, which was season 4, shows you that yes, they will tease romances and hints at romances between characters, but instead of just teasing and hinting at it and not doing anything, they'll actually go through with it. They will actually go through with it. So that's pretty cool. That's actually pretty cool for them to do. But it's not the only show. I mentioned Nickelodeon with Tough Puppy. Everybody that has seen Tough Puppy, and again, I go back to the Get Smart reference, pretty much says that despite how you feel about the characters and their personalities, Kitty and Dudley will pretty much being set up to become Nickelodeon's equivalent of the agents in Get Smart, which, oh, by the way, those agents went from being partners to being married. They became romantically involved, and they teased that. They teased that in Tough Puppy. Heck, they teased Danny and Sam and Danny Phantom from beginning to end, and when we got to the end of Danny Phantom, what did they do? Danny and Sam become officially an item. Samantha, that's it. Her real name is. But they become an item. The point is, the reason a lot of these shows do this is because they're either going to go through with it, or they're just doing it because, you know what? They know that the viewers, the fans, if they get behind the show, they get behind the couple, or behind the show, and maybe behind the tease of the couple, that the fans will probably come up with scenarios themselves. Most of the times, that's what this is about. They do it for the fans. Did My Little Pony Friendship is Magic have to keep teasing Spike and Rarity? No. And yeah, they had a cooling off period, as I've mentioned before in other videos. But when you got into later on, especially when Nicole Dubuque took over as executive producer, what did they do? Bada bing, bada boom, they brought it back. They didn't have to do that, but they did. They brought it back, and they didn't have to do that. But they did. They brought it back. Anyway, long story short, alright, there's a lot of shows, past, present, and probably future, that are going to do this. There's no doubt. There's a lot of shows. I mean, believe it or not, this is going to sound crazy to a lot of you. Gummy Bears, when it came out, you could say it teased something between Gruffy and Ursa and Gusto and Sunny. You know, you could say that. And you could even say that they teased something between Calvin and Calla. But to me, I think one of the biggest teases out there was Cubby and Sunny. I hate to say that. And I hate to say that, but to me it was evident. You can't tell me that you had Cubby paired up with his human companion in Calvin, and then ironically, the girl that Calvin is interested in, and vice versa, with her interested in Calvin, Sunny gets paired up with Princess Calla. You can't tell me that's not a coincidence. The point being is this. You know, when we look at it in the end, why do animated shows do this? Why do they add romance? Why do animated shows decide to put a romance tease in? Or a shipping tease? Why do they decide to do it? Because in the end, whether they follow through on it or they leave it up to interpretation for the fans and, you know, to look at and come up with scenarios themselves. The reason they do it is because they know it's going to get people talking. It's going to gain interest. It's going to get views on the show. And it's going to get fans talking. That's why they do it. I mean, even when they get even when they're put in interviews or they're put into Q&A panels, what's some of the first questions they get asked in the interviews or at the Q&A panels? I'll tell you what those questions are. What's happening with these two characters? These two characters, are they getting together or not? Are you going to continue, or are you going to continue this relationship, make it more romantic, more official, or are you going to do this? Those are the kind of questions. Basically, it's a question of whether or not they're going to follow through, or what's the next step. What's the next step in the possible relationship between the two characters, and whether or not they're going to follow through in making those two characters an item or not. You see, that's what it is. It's about getting fans to talk about the show itself, but also about the shipping that's being teased, about the romance that's being teased. And I know fans don't like to hear that sometimes, but it's the truth. It really is. So I don't think, honestly, I can say any more than that. Um, I just think that's what I just think, honestly, in the end, that's what it is. To be totally honest with you. That's what it is in the end. Whether any of you want to admit it or you don't, it's a fact of life. It's the truth. We may not like the idea that romance gets teased in certain shows that don't need it, but especially between characters that may not be compatible in all eyes. But honestly, they do it because it gets people talking. Going back to My Little Pony Friendship is Magic with Spike and Rarity, it's like, you look at that, and even though there will be people that will have their differences on why it shouldn't happen, those people get outnumbered by those that wanted to see it happen, because if you're going to start with it, you might as well make it official. But the reason it was also done, despite Lauren Faust maybe not seeing this coming in the way that it did, the reason it kept going in the show and even in the comics by IDW, most recently with the holiday spectacular they did, is it gets people talking. It gets them talking about, what could be, or what the next step could be, or are they going to make this official, or are they going to do that or this. It gets people talking. It gets them wondering. I mean, heck, one of I mentioned that picture that those two pictures that people put up at the people who love Rarity Facebook page. And somebody in the comments section mentioned that Rarity, at least in the future, had to date Spike. It's like he had this growth spurt, who knows when. And so she probably decided maybe in the eyes that some that were kind of iffy about it, maybe it's time I went and gave this guy a chance, gave this guy the real chance he deserves. Again, that's interpretation. That's fans' interpretations and theories. I'm surprised Dr. Wolf hasn't done a discussion video on that yet. Maybe he will. Who knows? But yeah, honestly, I don't think we can say any more than I can't honestly. I don't think I can say any more than what I have. So, what do you guys think, though? What do you think, honestly, down below? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you to those that tuned in and commented in the live chat. But let me know what you guys think. What are your thoughts? How do you feel about animated shows putting these romantic / shipping teases in the show, and whether or not they follow through with them or they leave them up to interpretation? What are your thoughts on them? Comment down below. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are on that. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you. Sorry if this video went long. I do apologize. It's about an hour and 8 minutes in. So again, thank you all for watching. Really appreciate it. But again, let me know what your thoughts are. How do you feel about when animated shows do this? They add in the romantic / shipping teases in the show between characters, and whether or not they do it to follow through on it and make it official, or they leave it up to interpretation for the fans when it's all said and done. Let me know down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you on the subject. And I will talk to you all later. God bless. Take care. Sorry for the interruptions. And I'm out.